Sir Alexander, two things we've learned about you this semester is that you are a strong advocate for sustainability and you love a good Reese's bar. And that's why we think you'll love our brand, Good Life. It is going to lead a sustainable revolution.
There are two main concerns that our brand focuses on when it comes to making our world more sustainable. One of those concerns is that the pollution that we as humans put into the earth causes landfills and oceans to be filled up with plastic from the waste of goods that we consume. Then those plastics are breaking up and getting eaten by the wildlife, which ultimately leads to the death of millions of animals. To help solve this, our brand aims to use a plastic alternative for our product, which is in fact biodegradable and safe for the environment, so we can stop killing so many animals.
Secondly, we are not the only animals on Earth, and deforestation leads to the destruction of habitats for birds, monkeys, and tons of other animals. Many of these animals ultimately die because they have nowhere to live. Here at Good Life, you will have a clean conscience that no animals will be killed in the making of it.
Yeah, and all that reminds me, back when I was a kid in 2010, there was a huge disaster with BP oil, which resulted in a huge spill in the Gulf of Mexico. I remember being in first grade and hearing about it from my teacher, who seemed very distraught from this disaster. And I remember back then, when I initially heard about it, I thought, well, what's the big deal? So there's some oil in the ocean. Who cares? That instantly changed when my teacher showed myself and the rest of the class pictures of the poor animals that were greatly affected by this. I remember one girl crying at the sight of an injured sea turtle washed up on the shore, coughing up oil and barely hanging on to its life. Another picture that I remember was that of a bird that was fully covered in the disgusting black goo. After school that day, I remember going home with a pit in my stomach. My young child brain was unable to comprehend how something so terrible could happen. And I will always view the BP oil spill as a reminder on how important it is to protect our wildlife, which really inspired us in the creation of Good Life.
Did you know that every year 5 million animals die from deforestation? Professor Alexander, as a sustainable consumer, you would care about this because it is a terrible event that so many animals must die just so we can get raw resources from trees that are cut down. Something else we know that you care about, since we know you reuse the same plastic lunch container every day, is the amount of plastic that ends up in our oceans. This plastic is often mistaken for food by animals who eat them and die. This is also something sustainable consumers would care about and prefer our brand offering over others.
At Good Life, we as a brand are trying to change the way that all food is produced. Because one big problem in the world today is that we produce food in ways that are highly unsustainable and highly unethical. Along with that, companies will try to give the impression that they are sustainable by making only one aspect of their production more eco-friendly.
For example, many brands will create products using sustainable materials in an eco-friendly way, but the packaging itself will be incredibly unsustainable and sit in landfills, since it is unable to be broken down by natural methods. That is why we at Good Life have created a chocolate bar that is sustainable at all ends of the production, from the gathering of raw resources to the shipping and packaging of our products.
We believe that by being pioneers in the creation of a sustainable chocolate bar and also showing other brands that sustainability on all ends of the food production can be achieved, we will in turn spark a sustainable food revolution. If we push our message, we will show the public how much we as a brand truly care about the earth and the delicate balance we so desperately need to maintain. And hopefully, in turn, encourage other corporations to change the ways in which they produce their food products to a more sustainable route.
Something I remember learning about in school was child labor in industrial America. I remember this unit in my 8th grade history class especially well due to the shock I felt when I learned that there once was a time in our own country where children as young as 3 years old were being forced to work in dangerous factories with very long hours and very little pay, just as a means to support their families. I remember hearing about kids dying in mine explosions, getting their hands mangled in machines, and being forced to breathe in dust and harmful chemicals. I thought it was disgusting that in our country it was viewed as normal for a childhood of this instead of playing outside and enjoying being a kid. And it pains me to know that this type of cruelty is still happening in our world today. Anything from your Under Armour t-shirts to your Apple iPhone was likely built on the backs of young children, which is something we as a brand are adamantly against and are fighting to change.
Professor Alexander, do you know that the cocoa industry is forcing 1.56 million children across West Africa to work for less than $2 a day in hazardous conditions? One big corporation that utilizes child labor is Hershey's. Get this, your favorite chocolate bar, Reese's, is owned by them. Knowing all this information about child labor and deforestation, do you really want to keep eating animal killing, child exploiting Reese's bars, or convert to the healthier, more sustainable Good Life bar? Here at Good Life, we hope that in the next 5 years, we're going to spark a sustainable revolution across the globe.